Good morning, everyone. My name is Cynthia Lopez. You have handouts in your folders, and you can mostly refer to those at the end. It's a really good snapshot of everything we're going to be talking about. So if you want to follow on, you can. But also you can follow on. What would you want to tell your future self a year from now? How about 20 years from now? FutureMe.org is a website where you can write and email yourself, your future self, a letter. The cool thing is that every letter written on the site gets published for everyone else to read, anonymously if you so choose. I spent a considerable part of my prep time for this presentation reading through people's letters to themselves, and it was like eavesdropping on the silly, serious, heartbreaking conversations that ordinary people have with the extraordinary people they hope or fear they will become. People gave their future selves advice like, call your mom, believe in love at first sight, wear sunscreen, and my two favorites, trust in God but lock your car, and don't change for anyone, not even a really hot guy. Need to remind ourselves. As I read through these letters, I thought about what advice I would give my future self, and here's what I came up with, seen through the lens of my last trimester. Piece of advice number 1, keep setting goals. Recently, I read that the whole point of goals is 80% to motivate you to actually do something and 20% to actually hit the arbitrary benchmark. Well, the achiever in me twitches a little every time I hear that quote. I have found it to be true. There is a sense of accomplishment at looking back at the goals I have set and the progress that I made, or at what I learned from the lack thereof. In the fall trimester, I set out to be a better coach to both leaders and allies by checking in with each of my Class 3 allies once a month outside of family gatherings and outside of coaching meetings, and by hanging out with 2 of my leaders also outside of those normal contexts. I completed the first goal of checking in with my allies for both October and November, and I'm still catching up for December. And I actually am going to continue doing that for the rest of, until my class graduates in May, since it's proven to be a really good way to support my allies. As far as just hanging out with 2 of my leaders, it did not happen. As I thought through why that was, I realized that at one point I realized that it was counterproductive to what we're actually trying to accomplish of emphasizing the leader-ally relationship, and there was just too much going on in my leaders' lives for me to try and have them focus on 2 relationships, my relationship with them as their coach and their relationship with their allies. My second objective was to systematize and improve the Emily Griffith process by having at least 80% of Class 4 leaders attend our registration and orientation, by creating comprehensive documents in preparation for the handoff between myself and Amy as a new liaison, and redesigning the book ordering process. I'm happy to report that I crushed these goals, mostly because I had the wonderful help of Miss Amy Leininger as my understudy for the past couple of months, and she provided the extra inspiration I needed on top of the 80% that the goals already provided. As of January 1st, I've officially passed the baton on to Amy, and I'm already encouraged to see her owning the role, being a great asset to our team, and serving her leaders really well. My personal development goals was to implement restful habits and rhythms that make both me and my team flourish by developing a Sabbath plan, having 2 Sabbaths a month, and I also implemented 10-minute daily planning times and a 30-minute weekly planning time into my workday. The goals surrounding the Sabbath were a carryover from my summer PDP, and I'm happy to report that I went from taking 1.5 Sabbaths every month to taking 1.83 Sabbaths. So slowly but surely. I also introduced 10 and 30-minute planning times in an effort to do more better, and while I'm still trying to figure out a system that works for me, I used about 40% of my 10-minute planning times. Piece of advice number 2, remember that passion is the result of action, not the cause of it. For most of my life, I've struggled to figure out what my passion was and what passion means and how much it should motivate what we do or don't do. But while many people spend their whole lives waiting for a lightning bolt of passion to strike them before they do anything, I believe that passion comes when we just do stuff. They say that if you're passionate about something, it will already feel like such an ingrained part of who you are that people will have to remind you that it's not normal, that most people aren't like that. And while it's taken me a while, that's finally true for me. So when you guys do something for me, will everyone close their eyes? Real quick, everyone close their eyes and try and picture 14-year-old Cynthia. Yeah. Actually, you don't have to imagine because I found this gem on Facebook. Good. On my 14th birthday, so obviously this is me and my On my 14th birthday, my dad came home and told me to get ready because we were going out, just me and him. Mind you, this has never happened before, and almost since. We ended up going to dinner for my birthday, just me and him, and I don't remember everything we talked about, but at one point he asked me what I wanted to study in college. And I remember very seriously looking at him and being like, I don't really know, but I would love to be a celebrity's personal assistant. His mouth just kind of dropped to the floor. In college, I worked for the off-campus studies coordinator, and I convinced her to let me get her coffee every morning, even though she felt really weird about it, because that was not my job description. I still remember dark roast, 2 pumps of creamer. I considered checking my personal email, a stress-relieving activity, and this is going to sound super cheesy and weird, but recently, as I've had to send more and more emails as part of my new role, sometimes I'm writing them and I feel like I'm composing symphonies. As a task-oriented and I know, it's really weird. As a task-oriented and administratively gifted person who prefers a sidekick leadership style, I believe that I am more passionate about being Juan's executive assistant than about anything else that I've had the opportunity to do. For the past trimester, I've been transitioning into this role, and while I'm probably still in the honeymoon stage, I am loving it. I love using my gifts to help Juan execute his vision for our work and for our neighborhood. Like Jason so accurately joked about in chapel on Wednesday, I don't really know what I'm getting myself into. However, I am looking forward to continuing to be a part of implementing what comes down to the departmental and organizational versions of the PDP, preparing reports for the cross-purpose board, and organizing Juan's life. Piece of advice number 3, keep practicing gratitude. Henry Ward Beecher once said that the unthankful heart finds no mercies, but let the thankful heart sweep through the day, and as the magnet finds the iron, so it will find in every hour some heavenly blessings. And at the end of almost every single day in the past trimester, that's exactly what I did. Here are 3 things that I was thankful for. On October 19th, I was thankful for everything falling into place at Covenant. Juan and I took a 7-second trip out there for the year for him to speak in chapel and to do some fellowship recruiting. I consider it a privilege to invite people into the work that God is doing here in Denver, and it's really exciting to see 3 Covenant students in the pipeline for this data cohort. On November 10th, I was thankful for the best firing experience ever. One of my coaching tasks for this past trimester was to off-ramp my class 1 and 2 leaders that I inherited when I first started coaching. 3 of the 4 are actually planning on or are currently allies for this class, but one of them had to be released. There never seemed to be a good time to do it, and after putting it off for way longer than I should, we ended up having a great conversation about her time in the program, what she learned, what she gleaned from it, and she ended up thanking me as I left her house that day. So I was so thankful for the courage and the favor that God gave me in that moment. On December 14th, I was thankful for huddling with the team in the Emily Griffith lobby. As part of the transition between cross-purpose and upstream, and between Amy and I, there were 2 reports that we wrote, and that day on the 14th, we actually presented one of them to the team at Emily Griffith. As we were leaving and debriefing in the morning, Elisa, Jason, Laura, Amy, and I huddled in the lobby, put our hands in, and yelled team on 3, while everyone looked at us like we were weirdos. It was a picture-perfect ending to my work with Emily Griffith. In August 1997, a commencement address said to have been given by author Kurt Vonnegut at MIT went viral as everyone and their moms shared it through email. As it happens, the speech was actually a column written in the Chicago Tribune by a lady named Mary Schmidt. In it, she gives some pretty great advice, but towards the end, she says, advice is a form of nostalgia. Dispensing it is a way of fishing the past from the disposal, wiping it off, painting over the ugly parts, and recycling it for more than it's worth. And my hope is that my future self would honor the fishing, the wiping, the painting, and the recycling that had to take place for my present self to realize that goals are great, that passion follows action, and that gratitude really is the best attitude. Thank you.